Britannica.
Well, I said Mr. Train. I think he was the first person who was made a director, and he had been through being trained at Allen's, and he was quite a big man, and he could sort of not pretend, but try to put you in your place. But if you answered him back, he'd just laugh, and there was something nice about him.
So Ernie Clifton, known as Waffy. Don't know why, don't ask me why, but everybody called him Waffy. He was short and slim, totally bald, with big glasses, and he smoked a pipe. And he sort of shuffled around very quickly, very sprightly, very bright character. Good engineer, very good engineer. A lot of people said he shouldn't have been made a charge hand. He was too good. Too good actually as a fitter.
Mrs. Tyrrell. Miss Tyrrell. Miss, not Mrs. Miss Tyrrell.
I don't know quite how, but I think she was somehow associated with Lord Luke. And in the war, she was in the forces.
Wonderful lady, go sick visiting, very supportive in anybody with any sorts of troubles at all.
And she was sort of a welfare officer to the women in the works, and yet she did, you know, she was the sort, she'd say, don't turn it off, you know, that sort of speech. So she was very posh.
The whole welfare side of Allen's was brilliant. They just made sure that everything, or tried to make sure everything was running smoothly.
And yet she was very nice and funny, and the women who worked in the works, they loved her.
I actually worked with and sometimes sparred with Joe Bugner. He was an apprentice at the same time I was there.
Was he?
And also Des Morrison, probably less famous, but I think he was a middleweight. And we always said he was cheated out of a crack at the title.
I remember a bloke named Lenny Endersby. He was built like a tank. And if I say conrods, the connecting rod from the crank up to the piston stood about on an S37 about this high, and they were solid metal, and he could pick one up under one hand and one up under the other, walk down the gangway with one. Well, you had a job picking them up, and he walked down one under each arm. Big built man. An apprentice cheeked him one day, and all he'd done was held his ear. The bloke fainted. But he was a character. Only one speed with Len, but when he'd done it, it was done, you know.
Arthur Guppy, yeah, his father was headmaster of Bedford School, and I think Arthur inherited from him the ability to teach people, and quite a slender-built man, always very neatly dressed, upright, and had a strange approach which some people found difficult, because he would breeze into your office and start talking about the job without saying hello or good morning or how are you. It was straight into the job, and when he'd finished he would go, and that was that. But he was always open to answer your queries if you had a problem anywhere, and he had a natural ability to teach you. If you couldn't understand something on this first round of explanation, he would approach the whole subject from a different angle straight away, and inevitably you would soon learn what he was driving at, and this came quite naturally to him, and I thoroughly enjoyed working with him.
We had the guy that sticks to mind now, Elvis Presley. He changed his name by default to Elvis Aaron Presley. And he come dressed as Elvis. You might see him riding around Bedford on a bike, dressed as Elvis Presley. And what a character. And we used to get him to sing to us. And he could sing, he could actually sing. He's very good. And we'd say, come on Elvis, give us a song. And we'd all stand around and clap him, you know, and sort of things like that, you know.
I can remember one time when I was up number 3 shop in the
heavy machine shop on lathe. We used to have a chap who was in the stores named was he named Dudley Jones, and he always used to be asleep. He used to lay 2 bits of rolled up cloth on the locker.
Sleep.
On one, and then asleep. And if you wanted something out of the stores, you couldn't wake him up. So what I used to do sometimes, this is bad actually, but use the fire extinguisher and squirt water over the top of the lathe, then dive into the office out the way. And he used to come bursting out the doors looking for an Abba.
And there was Billy Dean, known as Abba, who seemed to us to be about 80 years old, but he couldn't have been more than about 55 or 60, I wouldn't have thought. Little round-shouldered fellow with white hair. He used to shuffle along, very amicable, easygoing sort of guy. One of these who got stuff done by being your mate rather than your boss. You know, yeah, get on and do that for us, will you, mate? And it worked. He got it done, which is why he was a foreman.
I mean, the blacksmith cooking his breakfast on his shovel. It smelled lovely. you taking your sandwiches in, and you'd make a toasting fork, and they got these gas fires hanging down from the roof, and you'd cook your toast on it. Well, the smells and...
Taffy decides that they'd be ideal for toasting. So I had to go off and make a 14-foot toasting fork. 3 strands of wire just bent and made into a prong. And he says to one of the other guys, I can't remember his name, Jimmy something, he said, you bring the bread in. He said, I'll bring some beans in, we'll have beans on toast tomorrow night. So they do. So there's Jimmy with the toasting fork toasting the bread, and Taffy looking after the beans with an inverted electric fire and a little saucepan there. Put the beans in the can, and there was an almighty explosion, and these beans were all up on this screen wall. The superintendent come running out of his office. What's that? Get them beans down. He'd only put the tin into the hot water and he hadn't put a hole in it. So the tin exploded.
One thing I do remember was that there was a special dispensation that the works hooter would go, but all the ladies were allowed to go off, was it 3 minutes earlier, so as they wouldn't get trodden in the rush. There weren't very many girls in the shops in those days, although I do remember one efficient lady crane driver in the erecting shop, in the fitting shop. But apart from that, there had been a lot during the war, but she was about the last of the band.
And the best lady crane driver I've ever seen. Wonderful. She drove one of these overhead cranes, and she would lift these. She was mainly over the turbine bench, and they would pull out what they call these jibs. They would pull them out, and when they come out, they go halfway across the working place, and they were spaced. And she would drive down there and put things in like that. She was wonderful. It was something to watch, you know, to see her turn something over on a crane. I mean, her slinger down the bottom would be directing her, but if he wasn't right, she would know, and she wouldn't do it.